Let's dive into something really fascinating today. We're going to look at an ancient text, not just as scripture, but as, well, as a computational blueprint for the universe itself, a kind of cosmic boot sequence hidden in plain sight. So here's the big question that kicks this all off. What if an ancient text actually contains the boot-up sequence for the entire universe? This is the wild idea at the heart of what's called the mirror model. It suggests that the first 5 verses of Sura Rahman aren't just beautiful poetry, but a literal step-by-step process for creation. It's a pretty mind-bending way to look at it, so let's break it down together. First things first, every computer needs hardware, right? Well, according to this model, the first 3 verses, or ayahs, are all about creating the foundational geometric structures of existence. This is us building the machine. Now, the engine that drives this entire creation process is a single, really powerful action: reflection. It all starts with one single point of existence. That point becomes self-aware by creating a mirror image of itself. And that one simple act, that's what generates knowledge and the very ability to transmit it. So, it all begins with the first verse, Ar-Rahman. In this model, this verse is the geometric dot. It's the dimensionless origin point, pure existence. You can think of it like the very first line of code in the universe's entire program. It's the seed that everything else is going to grow from. And here's where the magic happens. This is the critical action. The dot, which we can represent with the number 1, reflects itself. This creates a pair, 1, 1, or 11. This mirroring is what signifies the birth of self-awareness. Then, through a little numerology, you add the digits 1 plus 1, it becomes 2, and that number, 2, gives us our next geometric shape. That number 2 represents the line, and this lines up perfectly with the second verse, which talks about teaching. Geometrically, what's a better symbol for transmission than a line? It's the flow of knowledge, the communication from that original point to its reflection. Awareness can now actually be communicated. So, from the line, we get our next shape, the triangle. This corresponds to the third verse, which is about the creation of the human. Now, geometrically, a triangle is the very first stable 2D shape, and it represents the blueprint of the human form. But, and this is super important, at this stage, it's just a blueprint. It's a body with structure, sure, but no way to actually interact with the world. Okay, so we've got our hardware, this silent, non-interactive human blueprint. But as you know, hardware is pretty useless without software. So now it's time to install the operating system. The fourth verse brings in this word bayan, and with it our fourth shape, the square. The square gives us the frame, the interface. The model argues that bayan isn't simply speech, it's the entire human operating system. It's the software that allows that triangular blueprint to be housed and to finally interact with reality. The analogy is pretty simple, right? Think about it. A computer's hardware without an OS is just a box of circuits. A smartphone without its software is just an expensive glass brick. In exactly the same way, the human blueprint without bayan is just a silent form. The OS is what boots it up and brings it all to life. So what does this human OS actually do? Well, it gives us the ability to decode the universe, to understand all that sensory input. It lets us express our internal states, thoughts and feelings, and crucially, it lets us execute commands and actually act in the world. It's the bridge between our internal reality and the external one. Okay, so we have the hardware and we have an operating system installed. But a computer, even with its OS ready to go, is still just a dormant machine until you plug it in. The whole system needs a power source and a clock cycle to actually run. This is where that fifth verse comes in, and it's the key to powering the entire simulation. The sun and moon move in precise calculation. According to the mirror model, this isn't just a poetic line. It's a technical instruction. This verse is seen as the CPU clock of the universe. I mean, just like your computer needs a clock cycle measured in gigahertz to process information, this cosmic system needs a timing engine to run the simulation of reality. And the roles here are very specific. The sun, that's your power cycle. It provides the raw energy that drives the whole system, kind of like a power supply. And the moon, with its predictable phases, that represents the memory and the timing cycle. It regulates data refresh and all the rhythms, a lot like RAM in a system clock. Together, these two cycles give us our fifth and final geometric shape, the 5-pointed star. The star is a beautiful symbol for time, for harmony, and recurrence. It represents a complete, balanced, and fully operational system, now powered on and running. And with that, All the components are in place. The hardware is built, the OS is installed, and the power is on. The system is officially online. We can now see the complete architecture of creation as laid out by this really remarkable model. So here it is, the whole 5-step boot sequence. It's pretty cool, right? We started with that single dot of origin. That dot reflected itself to create a line for transmission. This gave rise to the triangle, the human blueprint. The square provided the frame for the OS to activate. And finally, the star powered the whole thing up, representing the clock engine of time. And here is the final map. Just look at how neatly it all fits together. You can see how each verse corresponds to a geometric shape, a creative action, and a specific function within the simulation. From the dot as the origin point, all the way to the star making the universe clock run, it forms this complete and totally cohesive system. So, after going through all that, what's the big takeaway from this really intricate model? What does it all mean in the end? You know, the power of this interpretation isn't about claiming it's the only truth out there. It's about revealing a fascinating, internally consistent architecture that's hidden within the text. It transforms these verses into a logical, step-by-step process, and it unifies geometry, computation, and spirituality into one cohesive system. And that leaves us with a final, pretty tantalizing question. If a system this detailed can be decoded from just 5 short verses, it really makes you wonder, what other cosmic blueprints might be hidden all around us? You know, in texts, in nature, in art, just waiting for us to find the right lens to bring them into view.